Welcome to the latest edition of This Racing Live. We have come up to God's country to catch up with two very different trainers, but both harbouring ambitions of success this season. We also sit down with York Racecourse's William Darby ahead of the Dante meeting, which is fast approaching, and catch up with a young jockey who has already enjoyed plenty of international acclaim already this winter. The enthusiasm of youth is rife in North Yorkshire, and in particular here at Hill House Farm, where we have come down to see Jessica Bedi, one of the youngest trainers in the ranks, and as a dual-purpose handler is looking to make her stamp on both the flats and jump spheres. And let's be honest, she's got time on her side.
It's beautiful, it's really quiet, it's great for the horses. And we don't have a lot going on, so anything that's quirky or young, it's just nice to bring them up around here and they seem to enjoy it, and it's not a chaotic lifestyle, it's quite relaxing for them.
I guess growing up around pointers, is that what lit the fire for you in the first place?
Yeah, absolutely. I can think one of the first horses I sat on was probably one of Grandma's pointers. Pointing when you're younger and going out with your friends and running up and down when your grandparents' horses are running, that's something that you just get a love for it.
When COVID hit, it was a tough time for a lot of people, but it rather gave you a new avenue to a career that I know that you always wanted to do, but maybe fast forwarded away into the training ranks.
Yeah, absolutely. Like when I was pointing, I was trying to ride out of certain trainers, trying to get as much experience as I can with the likes of Kevin Ryan. I rode out for him whilst I still got my amateur licence. Rebecca Menzies, and just people who do really well with, especially in this area. And then when COVID hit and I got the opportunity with Cats to start my modules, and I just thought I'm going to do it because what else were we doing in COVID? And it's another step forward, and it just really spiralled quite quickly. We had quite a lot of support. We had a couple of nice horses to step foot into the training ranks with, especially with that lad running in the national. And yeah, it did take off quite quickly. More of a surprise really when the email came through saying congratulations, you've got your license. We were like, oh, okay. But it was yeah, it's good, and we've had really lovely support with our racing club and with small owners who've come and got on board.
And when you got that license, you were the youngest trainer in the country at the time. Might still be now, a little bit of clarification needed on that, but you're still certainly one of them.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that was more of a shock to us as well as other people. But it's nice just to be trusted in that way, that we've had enough success early doors and coming through with that pointing ranks that you've still got to tick all the boxes and meet their specs. But yeah, for them to say, look, we think you've got enough experience to go ahead with it, that's in itself is nice.
And you talk about training in this part of the world where there's a hefty horse racing heritage. Is it quite nice for you really to be alongside some of those big time trainers starting out?
Yeah, absolutely. And we have runners and you think, oh gosh, we've got one running against Sir Mark Prescott's horses and all this, and it's amazing really for a small yard like us, who we started off with 4 or 5 horses on the yard, to be building up and having runners in and amongst them. And it's really nice to be competitive with them sometimes, on our lower level obviously, but it is nice to think, oh, actually when we do get one that's at that level, we can get them to perform quite well.
Ian, you had a few winners to start off with, and you were telling me that the yard's expanded quite a bit since then.
Yeah, quite a lot, especially in the last year or so. We've had a few smaller owners on board. Sole owners are like where we would like to be trying to get into now a bit more. We've got a really nice racing club with a great group of people that are involved in horses that we'll buy in, and then we'll run them through our racing club, and then we'll see which path we're going to take with them. But yeah, we've had quite a lot of nice support, and especially more flat horses coming through, which is nice. We had our first flat winner just before Christmas, and it's just great to be able to mix both codes, because that's not the background that I really came from originally. So yeah, it is great fun.
Yeah, and you mentioned Aaron. Must be a big help having him around, and I know that you brought on Susie as well recently.
Yeah, Susie's a good friend of mine. She's started working for us this season, and she rides out with me every day. Aaron's here as much as I can, steal him from Rebecca Menzies' yard. But he's great. He'll be there on work days, schooling horses. It's great that we can school together. That's really nice. I've got everyone who works for me. I can't thank them enough. They're good jockeys. They know what they're doing with the horses. They don't miss a beat with them. If I don't see it, they've seen it before me. Yeah, it is great. We've got a great little, neat team.
I get the feeling you're quite ambitious. What are the aims and hopes you'd like to achieve in the future?
We try to expand our facilities, we try to expand everything, but I think at the end of the day, it's experience. You learn from every horse that you get in, and I think you've just got to take every day as it comes and learn from people, learn from the horses that you get in, and it is a long road ahead, but hopefully it'll just keep going up and on.
From one budding young trainer to a handler whose career continues to fly high, at the peak of his powers, we are here at Richard Fahey Racing to chat about his squad of stars, headlined by international globe-trotting superstar Spirit Dancer.
All right, Connor. Out. All right. All right.
Richard, we've obviously lucked out with the weather today, but I wanted to ask you first about the challenges over the winter, because obviously there's been a huge amount of rain. Has it made things more difficult than usual?
Not so much difficult. We've been struggling to get on the grass. 2-year-olds, we haven't really had a good sort out yet. Normally at this time of the year, we'd have a fair idea which one the early ones are and they're not. Personally, we sort of use the all-weather. And I don't like to be too tough on the 2-year-olds in the all-weather. The older horses can take it, canter and gallop and canter back. Just sometimes you can light a 2-year-old up galloping on the same gallop you canter on. So we would normally take him away, get him off the place and get a spin on grass. We haven't been able to do that this year, but a couple of days like this will be all right.
Yeah, so just a little bit behind usual, but nothing too serious.
Nothing drastic. Yeah, we're very lucky. We train on a hill here, and the gallop is built out of the ground. It drains well, and the all-weather never gets stopped. So I'm sure the staff would have a different opinion on it. Has been wet and miserable, but it hasn't been very cold. So they're coming in their coats. They're pretty forward that way. But no, we're happy enough.
So a few problems this winter in terms of the weather, but no problems on the racecourse, because Spirit Dancer has been quite the globetrotter. Must have been so exciting to run in those big races abroad.
It's fantastic. It's great to have the opportunity to run, especially for the prize money. There were $1 million, $2 million, and then the last one was a $6 million race. You know, I mean, we're very privileged and very lucky to have a horse capable of doing that, especially a gelding. And he held his own. He won a couple of them, which was fantastic. But it's been a wonderful experience and thoroughly enjoyable. You get very well looked after. As I say, we went to Bahrain to start with. We had a great trip there, and then back to Dubai, Saudi, and then back to Dubai again. I mean, the opportunities to run for great prize money is fantastic. And as I say, it was a great trip.
And it is Spirit Dancers coming home really well. Spirit Dancers hit the front and kicks on by a couple of lengths to Isra. It's another big international win for Sir Alex Ferguson. Spirit Dancer wins the Bahrain International Trophy.
I wanted to talk generally about Ashinor, but first off, we might as well start by talking about his partnership with Spirit Dancer, because for a rider of his youth and ilk and possibly lack of experience in big races like that, how do you think he handled it? Obviously very well, I'd imagine.
I don't think Oisín would think of a Saudi race or a Cellric Catrick with any difference. You'll meet him, he's horizontal, nothing phases him, and we say, he has ridden a Ledger winner, he has ridden some big winners, but to speak to him, it's just another race. It might be different inside, but looking at him visually, he's horizontal. He doesn't worry too much about anything, so I don't think he was too flustered.
I started off in Ireland as an apprentice, worked my way up, lost my claim, and I rode for a lot of good trainers over there. I was very lucky. I was with Mr. Weld. I actually started off with Joanna Morgan, and from there I was apprenticed to Eddie Lynham at the start, and I rode a good bit for Dave Marnan as well. But look, I was very lucky. I rode for a lot of good trainers, and look, the move over here happened then.
So how did your relationship with Richard Fahey come about in the first place then?
Well, I think I was in Roscommon one day and I got a phone call off Musley Ryan. He just said what I'd be interested in going over and just saying what I thought of the place, and I think I kind of came on a trial for I think it was a week. But yeah, Richard called me, he said, well, I'd like to come over, and I think within the 2 days I was over here, and then I've never really looked back since. So
Was it from quite an early stage that he seemed pretty keen?
well, I was definitely keen. Racing in Ireland was getting hard, and I was probably not getting as many rides as I would have liked. So it's probably obvious to take the chance with both hands, and it's a very big stable, and even to get the phone call was great. But look, I stayed with Richard, I think, for the first 3 months when I came over here. So no, look, it was great.
You get to know someone pretty well doing that, I'd imagine.
Yeah, definitely. Look, he's very laid back too, so I think it was okay.
Do you remember the first winner that you rode for him?
I think a clear point could have been actually the first. He said if I got beaten him, I could go home. So luckily he won.
I guess that must have been a little bit of a relief.
Well, that's it. There was a bit of pressure when he really liked him. But look, he went and he won easy in air, so it was good.
Oisin's a very kind rider. He's a great pair of hands and sort of doesn't go without the horse. And I think, in my experience, is a lot of the jockeys do go without the horse, and Oisin never goes without the horse. When I say that, if they're on their head, he gives them a chance to relax and settle, and doesn't try to go too quick when they're not able. And I profess any young kid to take that on board, you know. And most of the top jockeys are like that.
You both made a pretty good start, haven't you, since you first joined? A few really good winners, some big races.
Yeah, for sure. Look, I've been very lucky. We've got lots of nice horses, and probably Spirit Dancer was probably one of the biggest.
Yeah, let's talk about Spirit Dancer, because obviously the horse is an amazing horse in his own right, to be that durable and versatile, to go globe-trotting in the way that he has. How proud are you of him? I mean, as a kind of equine thoroughbred, to be able to do that?
Well, look, I suppose I've only known him the last 2 years, but it seems to be with his form anyway. He's got better with age, and they say most Frankels do that. So, but look, he's very laid back. He doesn't show much at home, but I think that's probably the way most good horses are.
How did you find riding in Bahrain, Saudi? Was it a little bit different to over here?
It probably was a bit different. It was definitely a lot warmer, and I got a few nice trips away. But look, I think it was the race riding's pretty similar. It's kind of the same riders that would be around here that would be over there too. So look, it was probably fairly similar. Yeah,
and you seem like a pretty laid-back fellow, but I imagine even for you it must have been quite a thrill to get a winner like that.
Well, that's it. You go there expecting to run well, but when you go and win, it's definitely a big kick.
And not a bad check either in the end.
No, exactly. Look, we won't complain about that.
Spirit Dancer for Richard Fahey and Ushino have swept past Luxembourg, and it's going to be another international success for Spirit Dancer.
Deep down in my heart, I always felt he was the right horse, but he didn't have a good experience, funny enough, in Bahrain. He didn't travel very well. Well, he travelled well, but he got delayed on the runway for 6 hours, and we took him for a canter on the second day over there, and he got himself a little bit dehydrated, so we did have to drip him and look after him, and hats off to everybody that helped us. But he arrived on the day. Funnily enough, I didn't do a lot with him that week. He only cantered twice, and I mean just hacked round. And on the day I went to put the saddle on him in Bahrain, I thought he looked fat, so his trainers are never happy. But he duly obliged and bounced back. But he probably wouldn't have run 2 days prior to that race, but he picked up so quick. The vets did a good job on him, refueling him, if that makes sense, getting plenty of fluids into him. Beauty was he was drinking and eating, so he helped us as well. So it was a good experience, but on the day I wasn't that confident he'd run well, but he did, so it was fantastic.
And you've been training quite a long time now. In terms of a life experience, how different has this been going abroad with a horse like that?
I keep using the word privileged, but it was great. I mean, everybody in the Middle East looked after us really well. I mean, I was travelling with Sir Alex Ferguson. That might have helped. But I know what it's like to be a mega star, because every time we went out for dinner, he was getting we were meeting the head chef and everything. So it was a great experience, and Jed and Peter, I mean, they loved it. You know, the owners loved it.
And just on Sir Alex Ferguson, we know he's been a big advocate of the sport for a long time now. So how much of a privilege, I suppose you used the word, was it to have him on board in your yard?
To be honest, I would like to think that I would be his friend now. We have some great chats, and he's a man I highly respect. And to listen to some of the conversations is great. But it's amazing how we can compare both sports. You know, we're training athletes, he was training athletes, and you know, in conversations, a few things are said that matches well with our sport, and it is the same. They're athletes, horse and human, and you can compare notes.
I first met him in Bahrain, so it was good, and we went for dinner and stuff. He's probably fairly laid back too. Well, he seems that anyway. But no, look, it was a great experience to meet him, and to get a winner for him was very special.
And it was quite a poignant victory for Sir Alex Ferguson at the time. Did you speak to him afterwards or before the race?
Look, well, before the race, he'd said to me, he said he's a Frankel, so he said he will stay well. So he said, don't be afraid to kick on. And after, I suppose there was a lot of Arabs out there he was getting congratulated off, so I probably seen him on the winners' podium more than anywhere.
Too many racing TV interviews in the way.
Yeah, I think there was a lot of interviews out there. I'm not sure how fond of them he was, but look, no, it was great. And
just in terms of general emotion, winning that race aboard Spirit Dancer, it must have been one of your highlights.
Yeah, well, that's it. I suppose there probably was a bit of pressure. Going all the way out there, it was a good race. There's a lot of prize money on offer. And I think everything had went probably the smoothest it had ever went up to a race for him. So, look, it was brilliant when I got by the line in front. There's a lot of emotions, and look, it was great.
And what about ambitions for you then? Because obviously you're still a young guy, not been too long here at Richard Fahey's stable. So what would you like to achieve the most?
I'd love to ride a couple more Group 1 winners if I could. But just day-to-day racing, I'd like to probably try and get 100 winners in the season. That would be one of my aims. It probably mightn't happen this year or next, but along the way I'd like to do it.
And York Racecourse isn't too far from here, of course. It's been a happy hunting ground for you over the years, and I imagine it was pretty nice last season to be champion trainer on the track once again.
Yeah, I think that was the 10th time, which amazes me. Funny enough, York sent you a picture of your winners, and one year I had 16 winners there, which is incredible when you think 7 and 8 are being champion trainer now. It is very tough now. But to win it for a 10th time is fantastic. It is my favourite course. It's 25 minutes down the road, and I think for me it's the best track in England. Maybe that's geographically because it's only down the road, but I do think it's a very fair track. It's just getting tougher and tougher to get winners there, and we'll be trying to be champion trainer again this year.
I know that York were kind enough to throw you a party as well after your championship success last year too. I imagine that was a lot of fun.
It was, to be honest. It was at York Racecourse. No, we had a good night. I mean, York just do everything right, so we're very lucky.
I'm sure you'd be hoping for another party at the end of this season.
It would work. The lads would anyway, definitely.
York Racecourse has a special place in Richard Fahey's heart. In fact, it has a special place in the heart of many of the general public. So with that in mind, I've come down to the Knavesmire to have a chat with William Darby as he and the team approach the tape and are ready for the off ahead of a new flat season, starting, of course, with the Dante. William, I always love coming back to York Racecourse, not least because of the picturesque surroundings, but your enthusiasm too, because you always wax lyrical about this great place, and it's easy to see why. I imagine you're very excited for the season to start once again.
Oh, thanks, Tom. Welcome. Yeah, no, it's a fabulous place to be, really atmospheric, and a really exciting time of the year for us, getting going towards our Dante Festival, the start of our season. Lots going on site, as you can see around you, and really looking forward to a great flat season ahead.
Absolutely. You mentioned things going on. There are plenty. There's quite a few people working on it today, and I imagine it'll be getting busier towards the Dante meeting. So what exactly have we got that's new this year at York?
Yeah, well, our big project is the Southern End development. So as soon as we stopped racing last October, the builders moved in. We've got something like 80 people today, really to transform that grandstand and paddock experience for racegoers behind the stands. So it's not a physical stand, it's a canopy, a lawn area, lots more bars, toilets, and really improve the architecture and the facilities to deliver for our grandstand and paddock racegoers. And that'll be released, completed as the season goes on ahead of the Ebor Festival in August.
Okay, and you also got the new cheese and wine bar. That's almost ready, isn't it?
Yeah, there are a number of sort of more modest sort of improvements. The wine and cheese offering is in our old Edwardian weighing room. We sort of upgraded that facility. And as we were doing the big project, we discovered at the back of our cellar lots of really nice bin ends and bottles of wine. So we want to offer 14 wines by the glass, a platter of cheeses and hams in the sort of historic setting of the old weighing room for people to enjoy a glass of wine in the county stand, a good wine, and some wine and cheese, and just sort of add something different to the offering.
It's not too far now until the Dante. So with that in mind, I imagine from there it all gets quite exciting for the racecourse.
No, we're really proud of the meeting. I think 11 winners, the Albasti Equal Dante, have gone on to win the Derby. 8 have gone on from the Tassels Musadora to win the Betfred Oaks. So, yeah, really good horses, looking like they're coming, and looking forward to those 3 days in May.
But there's one thing that's always remained constant, hasn't it, really, at York? The class will always out. You always get very good horses from very established stables all throughout the year. It doesn't necessarily have to be at the Ebor meeting, but all the way through the calendar.
Well, I hope that's a combination of things. People wanting to bring their horses to us, and hopefully the way we look after our owners and the horsemen to want them to bring here. It's very much the prize money and the York Race Committee investing and continuing to invest in prize money. So we've got a 6-figure increase in the Dante Festival prize money to 1.5 million for the first time ever, with 30% more than we were pre-COVID in 2019 for our prize money across the season. And hopefully it's also the way we look after our racing surface, the track. We were voted the top racecourse by the National Racing Staff Association last year, which we're very proud of at Stables and Stableside. So we want people to bring their brilliant horses here to race in front of us, and I think the racegoers at York and the people watching on the television really appreciate the quality of the action on the track.
And this year, a little bit new is Premier Race Days too, so you've got some more prize money to deal with as well, which must help.
Yeah, we got 12 Premier Days. We're really trying to put our shoulder behind the Premier Days, and I appreciate it was a soft start, a slowish start for them, when not helped by the weather in January, February times. But it's a way for the sport to going back to first principles, to really highlight the best of our sport, especially on the flat. And for those that maybe don't know racing inside out and aren't racing TV subscribers, to understand the quality of the horses that we've got on the track on those days, helped by investment in prize money to attract them. And as I say, we're up to £11.2 million worth of prize money. That's $500,000 more than last year, despite the fact we lost one race day. So like for like, with 700 grand investment in the product to get the best horses here. And then hopefully it's our job to explain to people that we're here and are watching why these horses are the best of the best. And so we're going to try our best to promote Premier Race Days. We believe in the project and the concept, and hope it will develop and evolve over the years ahead. I always remember Richard Thompson of Cheveley Park Stud, who was QPR chairman at the time, saying the first Premiership match of football at QPR didn't look so different from the First Division match. But you look at what the Premiership's become today. So I think we have to look at Premier Race Days in that context, and hopefully we'll accelerate and show the wider sporting public what's great about our sport, especially at the top echelon.
The season will culminate here at York with the Ebor meeting, and once again we've got 3 Group 1s to look forward to. We've got the Ebor itself and some wonderful undercard racing too, so loads to enjoy there. And it's you know, it's always so historic, isn't it? What an historic occasion. We're full of so many heritage handicaps, and there's so much history about this place.
Yeah, it's obviously our flagship meeting, the meeting where we move on to a global racing stage. The richest race we will have ever staged, the Juddmonte International, a 25% increase in prize fund to $1.25 million, so the same money as the King George at Ascot, the richest racecourse funded all age Group 1 in Britain. With the King George. So delighted to our support with Juddmonte for over 30 years is continuing, and we're really excited about the Juddmonte International. On Juddmonte International Day, the Tassels Acomb has slightly changed this year. It's the richest juvenile Group 3, and we've taken away the restriction, whereas previously a 2-year-old couldn't have won before the July meeting at Newmarket. We've done away with that restriction because the way juveniles are campaigned these days with Royal Ascot juveniles, it was an ever decreasing pool of horses to race for that race. So that should really open it up. It's a Breeders' Cup winning you're in for the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Turf Mile. So that hopefully will turbo boost that race. The Coolmore Nunthorpe, which of course we had Living the Dream win a fairy tale result for Adam West and his owners, and Sean Curran, who's just based near to the track.
Just on that Coolmore Nunthorpe of last year, when I think of York, I sort of think of Aidan O'Brien, John Gosden, the top stables, but you do have a chance of picking up some big prizes here if you're slightly smaller. And I remember Adam West in the parade ring afterwards, he was interviewed and said, "Oh gosh, I can't believe it. I can't believe it." And it was one of those fairy tale successes, but they do happen here.
It was a fairy tale, and it gives everyone hope, doesn't it, with a horse. And you know, on ITV maybe saw the Showtime Mahones, the lads from Darlington with Grant Dewar. You know, their whole campaign was built around having a runner and hopefully a winner at York, and they achieved that on the Sky Bet Sunday series. So it's you know, we're really conscious of our role within the racing community and the enjoyment people get, and that sheer elation that Living the Dream, you know, owner, trainer, stable staff, jockey got from winning here. And you know, we've had long price winners of all sorts of races, the Juddmonte International, Arabian Queen, you talk about Ghostwriter, so for Jeff Smith a few years ago and David Ellsworth. So what was she, 100-to-1 winner or 50-to-1 winner of the Juddmonte International?
No less.
Modawin for Jane Chapelheim won the Ebor 100-to-1. So there's hope out there, as well as the big horses and the big favourites. That's why we stage horse racing.
Well, I wish you all the best for the coming season, and here's hoping that York continues to go from strength to strength, and I'm sure it will under your leadership.
Oh, bless you. Thank you, Tom. Thank you.
We have come to the end of another episode of This Racing Life. Our thanks go out to Jessica Bedi, to Richard Fahey, Asheen, and everyone here at York Racecourse, headlined by William Darby. Hopefully it has whet your appetite for the Dante in a few days' time. Until then, it's farewell.